Not exactly.
He's not crazy, he's not retarded, but he's here.
Well, he's an autistic savant.
You know, Rain Man is one of those rare films with a legacy that actually goes beyond the movie business. You know, when it came out 20 years ago, Rain Man introduced the general public to a rare but amazing disorder called savant syndrome.
Ray, do you know how much the square root of 2,130 is?
46.15192304. 2304.
The character Dustin Hoffman played was based on an autistic man with a brilliant photographic memory, a man by the name of Kim Peek.
When were you born?
The 6th of April, 1959.
It was a Monday, and this year it's a Thursday. It was Thursday, and you retire in 2024 on a Saturday.
Scientists have been fascinated with people like him for years. They're called savants, and there are only 50 of them in the whole world. One of the 50 is Daniel Tammet, and some of the stuff that he can do is remarkable. Like, back in 2004, Daniel recited pi. You know pi, right? The circumference of a circle divided by its diameter, also known as 3.14, goes on for infinity. Daniel recited it without a calculator to 22,514 digits. It took more than 5 hours. Now, Daniel was born with Asperger's syndrome. It's a high-functioning form of autism, and he developed something called synesthesia. It means that he sees numbers and letters in color, like this picture of pi that he drew. See that right there? He also associates numbers with emotions and shapes, like this drawing. He's got a memoir. It's called Born on a Blue Day. It's a New York Times bestseller, and he's just written a new book called Embracing the Wide Sky. And Daniel says everyone has the capacity to be as brilliant as he is. Everybody, please say hello to Daniel Tammet. Welcome. Thanks for coming on. You know, people can sort of see your story there, and we sort of listed off a bunch of the things that you're able to do. I mean, just as straightforward as possible. What's the difference between the way your brain works and somebody else's brain who doesn't have the same reality?
When I have a high-functioning autistic savant syndrome, it means that my brain is wired a little bit differently than yours or most people's. It means that I can do certain things very easily with numbers and language and so on, and there are certain things that I can't do that you can do very easily. So this conversation that we're having now is something that I wouldn't have been able to do as a child. I had to teach myself how to look somebody in the eye, how to understand body language, how to understand emotions, and it doesn't come naturally to me. It's something that's like a foreign language, and I'm using this foreign language now, hopefully without much of an accent.
No, not at all. How does somebody teach themselves emotions? Because for most of us, we get it wrong, right? So how does somebody teach themselves that?
When I was at school, I really struggled with making friends. I found it very hard. I didn't understand how to do it. So I had to watch the other children. I had to watch them play. So a little bit like being an anthropologist, watching other animals and trying to figure out what species it was and what it was like. And little by little, I learned. And every time I got somewhere and I made progress, I could look somebody in the eye. I could understand what a joke was. Then I felt so good about it that I wanted to keep going, and so I never stopped. I
mean, the way you see numbers and work with numbers is very interesting. You see them, as we said, colors and shapes.
That's right.
When did you become self-aware of the fact that this is what I can do?
When I was in class, and the teachers were giving us sums to do, and they're always in black, of course, and I thought that they'd printed them in the wrong colours, because for me, the numbers have different colours. And then I was getting so far ahead of the other children, I was asking for different books so I could keep going and going and going, and so eventually they ran out of books to give me. Wow. So I had to just sit in the corner and watch out and look out the window.
I heard you taught yourself a language in like a week.
That's right, Icelandic.
You learned Icelandic in a week?
Yeah.
Is it a difficult language?
It is. There are, to give an example, there are 48 ways to say the numbers 1 to 4, depending on where you use it in a sentence.
Oh my. And language just comes easily to you. Is there, do you know why that is? Because it's not numbers, right?
No, but it's patterns. languages are patterns. They have relationships. Words will have relationships over words. That's how we are able to make sense of what a word means. And there are patterns in every language. Some of those are unconscious patterns. I can give you, for example, a test if you want to do a quick test.
Give me a test?
Yeah.
I'm going to bomb this one. All right.
So this is on a chapter.
Oh, this is your language thing, right?
To do with language. That's right. Because one of the things that language scientists have found out, one of the things that really fascinates me, is that there are patterns in language that are shared by all languages, and they're unconscious. They're in the human brain. So it's not just something that I could do as a savant. It's something that you or anyone else could do as well.
A big part of what you're talking about here is that lots of people we're actually being taught things the wrong way.
Absolutely. There are intuitions that everyone has for words and for numbers, and the way that we're taught at school totally takes all the intuition out of those things. And if we can put the intuition back in, then we can all do amazing things with our minds.
Does that speak to the fact that when you're young, like math was a terrible thing for me, quite obviously. I mean, I had to be given the 50 to pass, right? Because I didn't earn the 50. But it was answers are right or wrong, and
Absolutely.
I simply just didn't remember what the right answers were.
No. And a much better way to learn would be to start with estimation. So you give people numbers and you say, what do you think the number would feel like? What would feel like the right answer? And you start with feeling, and then you move on from there. But if you don't have the emotion to start with, then it's totally artificial and you never develop the instinct. So just to give you a quick...
I kept asking you all those questions because I was hoping you wouldn't remember that. I was hoping I wouldn't have to deal with it. Okay, you'll bring it on.
I'll give you two, and these are really obscure languages. I'm assuming you haven't heard of these languages. This is the Siru language of Africa. Right. And in the Siru language of Africa, they have a word which is pambala. And I'm going to give you two choices. Pambala. Is it a round person, a round fat person, or is it a thin person? Is it an angular person? Pambala.
Well, it sounds like a round fat person.
It is. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And the other word is, this is from an Aborigine language in Australia called Yiyarant, and their word is chi-chi-chi. And this describes a dog, but is it a dog that is running or a dog that is sitting? Chi-chi-chi.
Well, it sounds like a running dog.
It is.
Right. So is a chi a sitting dog?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But, so those are just two examples, and I give lots of more examples in the book. The idea is that these are patterns that are in all languages, French, German, Spanish, just every language. And these are things that you're never taught in school. But these things that come naturally to me, but they could also come naturally to you.
What's interesting about the situation that you're in is that you're able to tell people and to very clearly describe to people your reality versus their reality and perhaps how the twain can meet. But I would imagine you'd said how difficult it was to learn this stuff as you became an adult.
Yes.
And confident in your own life and going out and living your life. That must have been a new set of challenges that most people don't have to deal with.
That's right. When I was growing up, I always thought that I was born in the wrong country because I felt so foreign, I felt so strange from other people around me. And so I really wanted to travel. I read somewhere that travel is what people do in order to find themselves. And I didn't know who I was. So I went to Lithuania, which is a small country in the Baltics in Eastern Europe, and I taught English. And I learned Lithuanian, which is another quite difficult language to learn.
You taught English?
I taught English. I taught Lithuanian people English because I wanted to share something of my experience as an English person with them. But what I found so interesting is that I wasn't able to I wouldn't have been able to do that unless I was different. If I'd have been a Lithuanian, of course, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I learned that difference needn't be a disability. The fact that I'm so different in some ways, that's not all that defines me. And there are so many things that I have in common with everyone else as well. I fall in love, I have emotions, you know, I want to be able to share something of myself with other people.
You were saying earlier that emotions, you have to learn how to recognize and understand emotions when you fall in love, and more complicated when you fall out of love.
Yeah.
What's that experience like for you?
Well, for me, love is like an orbit. It's when you're falling, and when you fall in love, you keep falling, and you never stop falling in a way. And the other thing I would say is that it's a little bit like the story The Little Prince. I don't know if you know the story The Little Prince. Well, in The Little Prince, they have the idea of when you look into a sea of a million faces and you only see the one face, then you know that you're in love. And so when I'm looking at people and I'm thinking of these stories, and it helps me to understand what these big complex emotions are that everyone struggles with.
And then when you look at somebody's face who you used to be in love with, and you look at them and you don't see that orbit, you don't feel that orbit anymore.
Exactly.
You have to learn that again.
Then you have to learn that again, yeah, exactly.
That's true for everybody, right?
Yes.
Everybody gets that one right for a minute and then they get it wrong. I heard, man, when you look at you look at people and you can assign a number to them?
Yes,
You said
often.
David Letterman looked like what number?
117.
117?
Yeah.
What number do I look like?
25.
25.
Yeah.
It sounds like out of shape number, like 25. What is that?
No, there's a lot of energy in 25. It's a really energetic number. It's like if you had a party and you're inviting all the numbers to a party, 25 would be the number that all the other numbers would want to be.
I like the way you think. I like the way you look at that. We in the bio to you played the clip from Rain Man, because for a lot of people, unless you're directly connected to somebody who's an autistic savant or autistic in some way, they think of Rain Man.
Yeah,
You met the real life Kim Peek.
Yes.
I heard when you can do what he did in the casino, so you're not allowed to gamble in a casino.
No, that's right. We were for the documentary film that they did with me a few years ago. I was taken to Las Vegas and put into a casino.
Oh, why couldn't I have been with you?
They wouldn't let me play with real money. They only gave me plastic money to play with, just to see what I could do. And I started counting, but it was too hard. There were so many decks of cards. They gave me as many as they could, and so I started using my intuition. And in one hand, they gave me a really bad hand of cards, and I just kept playing and asking for other cards, and then at the end I had 3 hands against the house. Yeah. The house had a 10, so this is a really good hand for them, and I had 7s, which is a really bad hand. Yeah. And I got 21 on the first hand, and then I got 21 on the second hand, and then I got 21 on the third hand.
Fantastic.
And I beat the house.
You won for all of us. Daniel's got this book called Embracing the Wide Sky, a tour across the horizons of the mind. A real pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Daniel Pannon, everybody. All right, we'll be right back. Fabulous.